어당가조네 사제교송 동샤어 동아샤바 상주선비 동아샤바 어도 로즈로즈로야게 말베.
So we currently are going over the text called the Bodhisattva's Confession of Downfalls. So we will continue to go over that.
어제 다드네 어데 지라게 개치부레스 개치부레 말베 동샤데 내가 준도야다 안지시야다 디된다산다 지라게 개치부레스.
So to understand and to actually recite or engage in the prayer of this confession of downfalls is very important.
어제 땅아주 때네 시제손이나야 안나가주 대완도 그래 동행도 말레스 대이 주데 가왈 되는 용거래 동행 주데 디발 되는 용거 말베.
All sentient beings are the same in that they wish to have happiness. So it's necessary to find out the causal factor for that happiness and understand what the causes of suffering are in order to know how to produce the happiness that sentient beings wish to possess.
어제 땅아이 가주 매일로데 안에 자와체보 매세 네바체보 예백거데 안지 가서 그래. 안에 동행의 줘. 안에 디바도 좀 걸어 샤다 아버지야. 되네 가서 그래.
So we have at this point the human basis, which has many abilities, is very important, and the human mind, which has so many different abilities. So we're able to ascertain the causal factors for suffering, to understand what suffering's causes are, and then we can have an acknowledgement, and once we recognize that these are misdeeds or non-virtuous activities, we have the ability to engage in acknowledgement of those downfalls or confession.
Since
beginningless time, we have had rebirth. We have had beginningless rebirth. And we have created negativities or misdeeds through the three doors, or through the three doors of our body, speech, and mind.
What debatos of sun, that debatos on garden, and also Sangal, what the Nuban did you are, Nuba, see the Sangal did you are.
Yanja Sirlong.
Debat Joatuma Sasha, Debi Sabin Marba, Sabin Pachas or Debi Pachas Sabin de, and also Sangal did you are.
Since beginningless time, we have accumulated vast amounts of non-virtuous seeds within our mental continuum, within our mind, and they now abide in that mind. With these misdeeds, these seeds will have the potential to ripen into suffering in our future lives. But we can abandon them by applying an antidote of the four opponent powers. So if we engage in the activities of the four opponent powers and utilize them, then we are able to abandon those seeds which will produce suffering in future lives.
Debi Sabade, Nebuton, Shama Tuba in a Debi Sabin, Keba Leba Inaya, and no Cotin don't tell you doing words. Lala Lenga, Lenny John Debi on that John Rebages, Lengane, and then Debu Mami about the Keba Momusmonsa Inaya, Co Debug is having the liar, your Maruko Yogumare, and then Co Maba Chagomare, Jan don't tell Suna, could doing words.
It has been stated that an unpurified misdeed, where there hasn't been a utilization of a practice such as the four opponent powers, will ripen. It will definitely ripen into a form of suffering. The action itself will not, the action that was engaged in will definitely produce results if there has not been an opponent to that action to purify it. So it has been stated that even if three kalpas or 3 eons pass, one will still experience that, sooner or later experience the result of an action that has not been purified. This has been stated that if the actions have not been purified, then one will have to experience their results sooner or later. Then
그 내부터지 매년에 안에 데뷔 사면도 갈리 총총총총도 그래서 안 동에 용용도 하고 그래서
The Nebodoji me.
내부터지 매 사면 갈리 치네 안 동에 용용용도 그래서
So we have these seeds of our misdeeds which will produce suffering. And if we apply the four opponent powers, or the fire of the four opponent powers, then the fire of the four opponent powers have the ability to slowly lessen these seeds' potential to produce the results of suffering.
어제 된게 돈에 딱 가서 디바샤안 다야 요버도 시다가 야버리스 디바는 되지 요버리스 디바시다 지난 도자리스 디바 동에 용거리스 동에 용거 디바는 되지 요버리스 되지 가려 요버스나 디바 구샤나 다야 요버리스 what 디비 요데스
The DB Yunten Chik, Gangesina Shadang.
자나지나 그 다야 요버도 디바 요데스.
So when we look at misdeeds and we look at the qualities, good qualities of misdeeds, there is one. It is true that the misdeeds are negative in one sense, and it is necessary to engage in a confession or an acknowledgement. But there are also, it is stated that misdeeds can be purified. So the quality, a good quality of a misdeed is that it has the potential to be purified.
다 가서 되네 지난 날이 집어도 내부터 가서 그래 내부 근데 저 떠들 안 돈이 고나 디바다 그래 소요하스 돈이 공에 있나 디바다 하는 그래스 돈이 고나 디바 간데스 다는 거스 디바 간로 조데 댄질라 되는 정도 요하스 댄질 조제발 된 되차도 공르제 안에 르당 하게 디바사도 그래스 돈이 공바 있나 되네 녀모바다 가서 그래 너무 다 어디서 갈는 거라서 그 갈래갈래 디바다기 더 주도 줘도 되지 돈이 공부도 되지 인그레스.
So when we look at the opponent power called the power of applying remedies or a power of antidote, we can see that in the Lamrim Chemo, the great treatise on the stages of the path to enlightenment, Lama Tsongkhapa states that meditation upon emptiness is a very good antidote or remedy to the negativity or misdeed that has been created. It is because the grasping at true establishment creates various negativities such as attachment and anger, and then we engage in activities or actions through our body and our speech, etc. And then this causes the cycle to continue. So it's because of the meditation upon emptiness that serves as the antidote to the grasping at true establishment, which creates the negativities, that it is stated that the meditation upon emptiness is the best remedy or the best power of antidote. And it can slowly lessen delusion or ignorance. It will slowly have the ability to abandon or eradicate that mistaken ignorance.
어제 전에 가서 그래. 안에 종아도 장기는 디바다 송거스 주디지 단단 안에 샤자도 체도 어두서 카도 장기는 디바다 그러 송거스.
So if one does mantric recitation, engages in name mantras such as the name mantra of Shakyamuni Buddha, these mantras of various yidams and deities will also serve as an opponent power or as a purification or a remedy. And then there is the 100-syllable mantra of Vajrasattva that can be recited. So if one erects erects objects of enlightenment. So if one, for instance, makes a new temple or engages in any of these things relative to the Zulakanzu, so representations of the enlightened body, speech, and mind. So creating representations of the enlightened body, speech, and mind, such as the statues and tankas and so forth. That's the representations of body, speech, and mind.
대신시비 천라 대봐서 손지 송유군의 샤바던 수요 동반의 샤바 수요 담비군의 가서 그래 샤비 주인이래 단단데 대신시바 송유군의 동화 샤바도 용거를 말해.
So here then we see in the Confession of Downfalls where it says to the founder of Bhagavan, perfect completed Buddha, it says the Tataga.
That 35 Buddha, Nogina, Dibasha, 35 Buddha, doing Dibasha, Chuji, Son Yoris. What and
So it has been stated also that the 35 Buddhas of confession serve as a remedy, and we will be going through the 35 Buddhas here in this text.
What that the name? Tananga Sanji Sungun and Don Shabi Sude, and then Deban Zeke Dona Song Shake was, Marbe, Deba Shabi choose, then the Huaji, and then Jogi. So
in this particular commentary that we're using, it states that there are three sections or three meanings to this confession of downfalls. The first being the actual confession itself, the second being dedication, and the third being the actual practice of engagement and explanation of that.
Chenrezig was Marbe to Ganga Chutu, they want to Ganga Sheduaris. Then Dangito, never Ladubito, never Swenjivito, then the Carre. All of
Dangito, Gunjubido,
Dangito, Dangito on never
Nebo Gundubido,
never Gundujubito, Roa. What the Jigun and Royal.
So the first confession or acknowledgement of misdeeds has four sections or four meanings, and we've gone over this multiple times. The first, and these are the four opponent powers, the translators note. The eradication, refuting the lifestyle is the first. That's the literal translation they're using in the Great Treatise now of regret. So I just wanted to be in concordant with that translation committee if people are using Olam Rinpoche. So, but this basically regret, the power of applying remedies or the power of antidote is the second. The third is turning away from faults, or that's the power of commitment, we usually say. And the fourth is the power of foundation, and we usually use the word the power of basis. So these are the four sections.
Tang the Jay, Tangital Tumble Legendus, Tangital, John Dutan, Sanj Gombas, the Legendus, Tangital, Tumble, that is.
So first we arrive at the power of foundation, or the power of basis. And the power of basis refers to refuge and the mind that aspires to enlightenment, or bodhicitta.
Oh, that Tangital, the Tonshabi, the Namashan Jusim, Tonshaba Dam in the Shejiwa. Tuita to Lamala Joseph, Sanjela Joseph, Chula Joseph, Gandula Joseph, what again? Tangito Danguaris, Tangito Shanjuka Santa John Shanjuka San Gomba said, what the Tanguaris, mother.
So here we see the power of basis in the beginning section of the Confession of Downfalls. Homage to the Confession of Bodhisattva Downfalls. I, Jeff, throughout all times take refuge in the Guru, take refuge in the Buddha, take refuge in the Dharma, and take refuge in the Sangha. So here we see the power of foundation, or power of basis. So what is the object of the refuge? The object of the refuge are the three jewels, the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. And one should look at these three jewels as follows. One should see the Buddha as a doctor, one should see the Dharma as medicine, and recognize the spiritual community or Sangha as aides or helpful or nurses.
John Juni Tamagun, Gonjo Somburangi Chenyabi, Sanlu the Jondo Saguaris, Marbe, John what the Saguaris.
Jantu the Rangi Chen,
John Juni Tamagun, Jibadan, Chili Devani Tamagun, and the Gonjo Somburangi Chenya was all Jura.
Gonju Sun Rang Chen, but Rangi Chen.
But the children then couldn't use one Pamal chosen to go, or Tenda Miss Ology.
Dang drop of the way.
Then there is all of the John Lawers.
Then Tamche under Sunan Ling Kinjogi.
다 보고 주는 예소나 그 밤을 져서 정도 밤을 두스 밤을 져서 정도 끝나지 아는 가서 제가 나지 동에 당와 도서 시용도 될 접이 내봐도 건축을 예체네 건축 체냐고 상로들 전도서 말배 전도.
So when we speak of refuge, refuge is very similar to the following example. There are two causal factors that need to be present for refuge to take place. And there's an example of a child who becomes fearful of a dog coming and goes for refuge to his or her parents. Here, this is very similar to the causal factors of refuge. Ed, what did I miss?
There are two causes for going for refuge: the cause of fearing the suffering of the three lower realms, and faith in the power of individuals to protect them.
Thank you. Lisa.
어제 다던 전도들 주저다 저들 주의저던 레비 저스니요레스 말베 주의저 가서 그게 상지 가서 그게 상지도 저선 로아데 주의저로서 그러다 안에 샤자 토발라서 뭐 가서 그게 로와스 소수 그게 상지라서 받다 저선 로아데 주의저로서 그래서 주의저 말베.
So when we speak of refuge, there is causal refuge and resultant refuge. Causal refuge is the refuge that we go for to our Lama, or the refuge we go for to Buddha, or Shakyamuni Buddha, because he is our teacher. So the causal refuge that we're speaking of is that.
다 레비 전도도 가서 그래. 안에 senje 단지에도 산지 공부 두고 샤오냐비 상로들래 레비 저순로와 말베. 안에 세정가로 산지야요레스 안에 산지야요자 안에 내 세정 단지거든 산지 공부 토바샤고 토바 주지 냐고 상로 주요로 든데 비전도 대자바 있나 안에 샤주 생공바세 다다레근도스.
So the resultant refuge is the actual, we state that may I become a Buddha to bring all sentient beings to the state of enlightenment. So that actual bringing the actual state of enlightenment that all sentient beings are brought to becomes the resultant refuge, our resultant refuge.
안에 강가 산지야요도 나 저는 제부 산지 주요를 세정 수인의 수수수 산지를
So everybody becomes their own individual Buddha. Jeff becomes Buddha Jeff, and others become their own individual Buddhas. This is the resultant refuge.
당가서 주의저 샤자도발로 받다달 저선 루유군에 안에 샤주가 생공야 돈이 고나 안에 가서 사지는 그래서 사지든 데버스 데비죠.
So when we speak of the causal refuge of going for refuge, and then we're achieving the mind that aspires to enlightenment and realizing emptiness, or depending upon realizing emptiness, then we can eventually achieve the resultant refuge.
어제 다 전도 들었더니 제부 중의 전도, 제부 딩기 전도, 제부 첨비 전도 송자고도 말이야.
And there are three levels of refuge. There is the small, the refuge for beings of small capacity, refuge for beings of medium capacity, and refuge for beings of great capacity.
다 제부 중의 전도도 간에서 난 뻔한 가서 신에 있는 가서 니와 예다 돈을 지그래서 시소나 안에 가서 그러냐 속도 동에는 지네 나 속도 동에는 지네 안에 될 잡이 채도 안에 사제라 저수 줄라 저수 그네라 저수 저수 로이나 안에 집이 중앙 전부다 통의 저는 말해.
So at the smallest scope, or the refuge for beings of small capacity, this is for a being who recognizes that when he or she dies, he or she does not want to be born into the lower realms of the hell, the hungry ghost, or the animal, and wants to have freedom from these lower realms. So this type of practitioner, a being of small capacity, goes for refuge in order to be free from the lower realm rebirth.
어제 다드네 그동안에 지시다네 그동안지 주동에 차반주지 동안을 지시다네 타바정 토나 냐비 상류 토네 안에 라마라 저수 사지라 출라 저근들 저수 저도 쉐바이나 안에 테메기 저도 테메다 토모이 저도 저번에도 토모이 저도 말베.
So if one then wishes to be free from cyclical suffering altogether, wishes to be free from the three types of suffering, the suffering of change, the pervasive compounded suffering, and the suffering of suffering, if one wishes to be liberated from this and then goes for refuge to the teacher, to the Buddha, to the Dharma, and to the Sangha in order to be liberated from cyclic existence, then this becomes a refuge that is shared in common with beings of medium capacity and becomes a Hinayana refuge or a lesser vehicle refuge, Theravadan refuge.
어때냐 나롱게 도안도바 나지 세전 단지게 도안도고래 내 동에 만도바 나지 안에 세전 단지게 동근도고요 말에 대답이 선도 여비 토네 안에 라마라 저수 산지라 저 출라 저 근들라 저 전도 제바 있나 제부 쳔비 전도되는 분도스
If the thought occurs that I do not wish to have suffering, but all sentient beings also do not wish to have suffering, may they be free from that suffering. And I'm going for refuge to the Lama, to the Buddha, to the Dharma, to the Sangha, in order for this purpose, to become enlightened. So this becomes the teachings of great scope, or the Mahayana. The refuge for beings of great capacity, or Mahayana refuge.
다양 아주 제부 중고던 rin당 어떤게 상루매바지로와 답변한 아주 못다야다 어떤게 신나무 모용하여로 어떤게 돈에야 남을 저 사실은 주장도 제바지 모르봐 제부 중고던 동전도 아이미가 따지도 왔어.
So when we speak of the small and medium scope, and then we think of an example of it being in an automobile and becoming scared, and where does that and then going for refuge because we become scared at that moment, which category, we're not sure which category that falls in, small or medium, it's uncertain.
어제 답만 제부 중고대야 제부 중고 담보와당 체버제 니자요 니라는 전부다 어배지 제부 중고전도 있으나 배진되게 만도와 제부 중고를 니요르스 라리 전부노요.
In the great treatise on the stages of the path to enlightenment, Jipo Chungi Jiangzhou Ni,
제부 중고를 니요르스
there are two beings of small capacity, two kinds, two types.
제부 중고 체버제다 담보와 니요르스
Chepu Tsambo, do you know what Tsambo means?
다 저와 셔마 배지 도발 산탄데 제부 중 체버제들스 다양 천들 산는 요렇게 아주 중고지자도 도와 대자들 배지 어때 담보와 배지를 보여줬다.
Tsambo would say did.
천대기 산을 쪄서로야 되는 용어로 봤다. 성질을 저 출러 줘서 천대이 된다래. 내매 받아. 어디 아부용하고 성질을 저 출러 줘서 어디 생각 용어로.
So the great treatise on the stages of the path to enlightenment says the beings of small capacity are of two types: those who desire happiness in their future life, and those who are concerned with happiness of this life. And the great treatise on the stages of the path to enlightenment puts these beings of small capacity into these two categories. So perhaps the previous example falls into the category of concern with happiness of this life. And there's technical terms for those two you can reference in the translation, English translation.
어떤 저기는 땡지 도서야 돼. 땡지 도서야 돼. 어디 동샤게 되네. 나무 상주선비 동아샤보다 민디 세제와 뒤다도 라마라 조수 조 사제라 조수 출라 조수 근들라 조수 조사 되게 땡지 도 상주게 센터 전도 공부하셔도 어디 땡고 왔어.
So when we speak of the power of foundation or power of basis, we see it in the introductory section of the Confession of Downfalls. Homage to the Confession of Bodhisattva Downfalls. I, Jeff, throughout all times, take refuge in the Guru, I take refuge in the Buddha, I take refuge in the Dharma, and I take refuge in the Sangha. So here we see both refuge and the mind that aspires to enlightenment, or bodhicitta, being represented.
되는 가서 안에 사제 세계도 간데서 그래. 사제 체니 사제 건축 이해와 주요 건축 체니 주요 건축 이해와 근육 건축 체니 근육 건축 이해와 어떤 걸로 파신에 모두 제거 제시 제바 요아레스 ane nga su jeshi jeban roba yina watu su nga shi wuduwas.
So then we need to figure out what the definition is and what the nature of the Buddha is. What is the Buddha? What is the definition of a Buddha? How many divisions of a Buddha are there? What is the definition of Dharma? What are the divisions of Dharma? What is the nature of Dharma? What is the definition of Sangha? What are the divisions of Sangha? What are the nature of that? And one can find this in the Prajnaparamita teachings. One can find all of these explanations.
Watende mabashiya duwas, wate nga su sugure pashin nolulo dus jebu yuaris.
So there is a lot to explain, so one should just refer to the Prajnaparamita.
Wate su nga su legal jema kashi ti yuar, pechi keshi tin yuar.
We've previously taught this. There's a few cassettes on this from the Parshin. There are the General Meaning of Perfection by Panchen Sonandrapa. We did a few teachings, translator's note. And we went over the bodies and the divisions and the definitions, everything, and it was all directly translated from that text.
Also, the realization.
Oh, and the ornament for clear realization, Ngutujen, Abhisama Alamkara.
Then nga su I take it in the Buddha Dhammasanga lelhabu muduwas, jachibu duwas muda.
And when we say I take refuge in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha, this is not so easy. It is very vast.
Wate nolule nenga mabuji ti lu sha yuaris.
But there is, it's been abbreviated or condensed and put into that that pronouncement.
Waji kashi gore, ya tubachi nanti. Aya kawali wida. Okay. Waji tene wadi chasun chandu tan wadu su keche boris. Ne sanji chudan su chudan la shanchu ba dan chuzi dagi shensu jebi san rola penche sanji chuba da senje yungu do senje.
So,
Kalla shanti da lela boro.
so the next Yanju Suranam, Long Yanju Suranam.
I take it in the Buddha Dhamma said, inch to la shana, what the chas.
Sanji Chodan Tsuji Chodan.
What it another.
So the meaning is, I take refuge in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. Through the merit I create by practicing giving and the other perfections, may I attain Buddhahood for the sake of all sentient beings. So the condensed meaning is here, refuge in bodhicitta.
Waji tatene tonsha gungotle lama la chosu, sanji la chosu, chula chosu, gandhi la chosu sayatege, chandu tan senje ni tensa wunduwas, what the kangan te wunduwas.
So in the beginning of the Confession of Downfalls, homage to the Confession of Bodhisattva Downfalls, I, Jeff, throughout all times, take refuge in the Guru, take refuge in the Buddha, take refuge in the Dharma, and take refuge in the Sangha. Here we see the condensed, abbreviated meaning of the bodhicitta and refuge.
Waji tatene what the tenji to the rose tenji to what the dudu shuba in what the inside is, Mariba.
So if the power of basis can be explained in an abbreviated fashion like that.
Tenji to na tensna, panangazo, Zamaling Saja Yorova. Zamaling Saja de ten ros, ten. Saja de Yoba ina, Saja de Yoba ina, take carten shigundusana, Sadle Shin Jagare, Motu Jagare, Dre Jagare, Sajagare, Ganga Jetuduas. Salatene, and the Shin Damatu, Wambu Jetuduas. What the tens, what is Umarva. John do the Yaba Yoba ina, John do Sajala Tene, and Nambi Chum of Jane Waters, Mariba.
So the reason that the name is foundation here, or basis, is because it's very similar to the basis of the earth. Here in the world we have an earth, or we have ground that we walk, a ground, or a base. And this foundation allows everything to grow out of it. It allows the flowers and trees and sprouts and so forth to come out of it. All of these are possible because of this foundation. Likewise, if one has refuge, then one can if one has this foundation of refuge, then one can ascertain all the other aspects of the Buddhist teachings as a foundation. The refuge is the door to Buddhism.
That John to the Piji ane nambi nacho yongzu de sajinda marbe ro jandol tene jebe chungyu chuyongore ndingyu chuyongore jebe chimbi chukangalo jandol tene yong shadares.
We can also say that refuge is the basis for Buddhism, or the foundation for Buddhism, because it's based on that refuge that the small teachings for the small capacity and teachings for beings of medium capacity and of great capacity can sprout from, or can come from.
Oje tati shanchu ge sen de tenji to ten ji log duas marbe shanchu ge sen de tiba chembi jogures tiba chembi sajires shanchu ge sen de yoba yina an tiba chembi chumo mo jen ngores.
Bodhicitta is the door to the Mahayanas. So we must speak of the mind that aspires to enlightenment, and this becomes the foundation for the great vehicle.
What the shanchu ge sen de jondo to so what abjeba yina dene and dibal no words.
If we become very very familiar with the mind that aspires to enlightenment and bodhicitta, then we will be able to purify misdeeds.
Oje dene shaja tuba daja ge tuma shaja tuba an shanchu sen jule jeka lamde le nge be nyawa chanyel je ngores marbe chanyel jene 찬일 전에 되네 그런 거 로봇들 동해와 사지강을 되네 그래서 자시 사지강을 신다고를 대주네 아니 그런 로봇들 이지전에 샤주가 센트로레스 되네 디바다네 되네 셰브네 아니 라이나 멀제송레스.
We can see in the story of Buddha Shakyamuni, the conqueror's previous rebirths, when he was born into the hell realms and was helping to pull a cart with another person who was experiencing a great amount of suffering. So at that point, Buddha was able in his previous life to generate the mind that aspires to enlightenment and compassion for this being who was having to suffer in this hell realm. And because of this, he was killed and then reborn into the higher realms.
와제 든 주비 상주 대바 도전 신도 맞아봐 든 주비 상주 생매바 그냥 관계 세진이 번주宣jul도宣대바 또 저거 네 또 저것도 저걸로 상주 그 생매바 다 걸레 가버리스 송도스.
It's been stated that in order for it's been stated in the Bodhichara Avatara by Shanti Deva that even if any kind of virtue uncoupled with bodhicitta is not of the most powerful sort. So it has been stated, without the mind that aspires to enlightenment coupled with action, the activity itself is not of its most potent. It's not as potent as it could be, or as powerful as it could be.
What the okay Deba toji shindo mazeba.
Oh, you have it?
Then the zubi shaju send me
that'll be helpful. Shunju yure.
Except with such extremely heavy evils, inexhaustible evils, except by the completely perfected bodhicitta, by what other virtue could they be overcome?
So that's the exact quote from the Bodhichara Avatara.
Why then they shaju send when the debata what then John to the debata was marbe.
So if we engage in the practice the mind that aspires to enlightenment, then we can purify our misdeeds. This is a good idea. I just had a good idea.
So now we've arrived at the power of antidote, or a power of applying remedies, and we've previously went over the power of basis. And in this confession of downfalls, we see that the power of basis, there's a very small section where it says, the section where it says how much the confession of Bodhisattva's downfall. Jeff, throughout all times, take refuge in the Guru, take refuge in the Buddha, take refuge in the Dharma, and take refuge in the Sangha. So the power of basis is condensed in here, and we can see the explanation was greater, and now we've arrived at the power of remedies, the power of antidote. That the Shanchu sent the tango yours, Songo yours, and the Jondo Matu Shanchu sent this tango Tibaina, Debi Jondo, Jondol and Debi Jondo down, Ju John yours. Debi John to Piji, or the Shanju Sanrego, Smarbe.
So when we look at the mind that aspires to enlightenment, and we see causal refuge and resultant refuge, the mind that aspires to enlightenment falls into the category of the resultant refuge.
Or Jetatane. 다 네바 군도 쇼비도 네바 군도 쇼비도 안에 가서 다게 쇼타베 이마 돈이 공야 안에 고송 도된신야 하다야 안에 와도 그걸로 안에 네바 군도 쇼비도 떡이 너네 다나 가서 손지 송이 거네 샤바스 어데레드스 말베 대신시비 천줘바스 천줘바 손지 송이 천줘비 거네 동아샤바도 어딘서스 말베.
So the next section, the power of applying remedies or power of antidote. One can use such antidotes or remedies such as meditation upon emptiness, saying mantras, constructing objects of enlightenment, of the enlightened body, speech, and mind, engaging in various positive activities of pronouncing the names of the Buddhas. So here in this text, the method of remedy or antidote is utilizing the names of the ones thus gone, or the Tathagatas.
다 산지 손주 성아데네 산지 성아 저르서 대바란도와 제길 샤자 토바산 당고서스 제길 샤자 토바 저서 바라지 가서 당도 어때 어때 제길 샤자 토바 인서 샤자 토바 어때
Rinpoche was saying that when we're doing the 35 Buddhas, we have various representations of those 35 Buddhas. And if people have the books, I believe are there pictures in these books?
그것도 배신된 건데
Okay.
And then there's
Yeah.
the bigger one.
어때 배저와 샤자 토바라 샤절로 제길 자고 그래 손산데 데바드지나 배저와 샤자 토바라 샤절로 스로와 제지기제 안에 산지 제걸로 띵당 예연당 오당 어떤들 산지 송아데 자고 그래
In Shachatupa Umma.
제길 샤자 토바제
Chiki. And
유마
in the middle, right?
인사
Inside the middle is, yeah, I'm 100% sure. Okay. So in the picture we have here of the merit field is a little bit different than the visualization in the commentary that Rinpoche is utilizing. Here we see Shakyamuni Buddha at the top. And in the commentary Rinpoche is utilizing, Shakyamuni is in the center of all of the 35, the 35 Buddhas, and is in the center of the Buddhas, and others are Topa Hula.
샤자 토바 제기제 안에 토당 예당 유당 오들 산지 송아
So above, around, and below Shakyamuni are the other Buddhas in the particular visualization, the commentary Rinpoche is using.
단데 바라데 베지 나르라장 제자 말베 나르라장 되게 나 렘방간도 왔어 지니 송신간도 와 파이보다 춘지레스 파이보다.
This is probably, according to the explanation in the Liberation in the Palm of Your Hand by Pabonko Rinpoche, where we see the 5 Buddha families represented in rows here. Does everybody have this book?
어제 다드네 데제나 다 산지 샤도 바 제기제 무슨 라본다 베지 이거래. 다시 말해.
It's going to be very similar to this, probably, not much difference.
다드네 존덴데 디진셰바 다좀바 양다바 주비 산지 배저와 샤저 토발라 샤첼로스 담모 말베. 안네 산지 샤저 토바 제기를 산다. 안네 산지 손주성아 띵당 오당 예당 윤도슬레 산지도 오도 산다네. 존덴데 디진셰바 다좀바 양다바 주비 산지 배저와 샤저 토발라 샤첼로. 근데 샤첼로 손주성아 용 말베. 어디냐 보고도 주비도 드레스.
So here we see the power of antidote in the very first prostration or homage. It says, to the founder, Bhagavan Tathagata, Arhat, perfectly completed Buddha, glorious conqueror, Shakyamuni Buddha, I prostrate. So we should visualize the Buddha surrounded above, around, and below by all the 35 Buddhas. And this begins the actual confession of the 35 Buddhas, this homage. This is the first of them.
what the Jonen the Jisha Badajuma Yandabazu, Sanji Peja, or Shaja Tubala Shazelo. Then the Mas Hanji Sonju Songa Shazelo, Sonju Songa Yungurwa. What the
Rimche, the Shachatupa, Sanjay Sunchu Sunga Nala. Nala.
내 진짜 지기를 자고로 송사 지들.
Then Tambo Shachatupa Dene.
단전도 배저와 샤자도발라 샤세로스 지기로와 샤자도발라 샤세로와 되는 보라지는 사지 그걸 샤세고.
So the beginning of this begins with the homage or prostration to Buddha Shakyamuni, and then the rest of the 35 Buddhas are paid homage to in the later on in the text.
어제 다 손지 송알에 샤세와 지라고 표현해 버렸어. 디바 뭐다 하는 그랬어.
If one engages in this prayer of the 35 Buddhas, says these 35 Buddhas, then it is a Gyanjasirana.
다 손지 송알에 샤세기나 표현 가르용 그랬어. 표현도 가르요하랬어. 샤세는 가르용하요. 레브 가르용하요. 표현 가르요하랬어. 디바이나 근데 손지 송알에 샤세바이나 안 디바 뭐다 하는 그랬어.
What is the benefit of recitation of these 35 Buddhas names of these Buddhas? The benefit is that it has the ability to purify misdeeds. So this is the reason, this is the benefit of reciting these names.
왔다 손지 송알에 샤세 표현도 아버시나 표현 아버시요나 안에 되네 동아샤반 되알 가부용 그랬어.
If one understands the benefits of the 35 Buddhas of confession, then if one understands these benefits, then this will be helpful.
어제 표현시나 안 동산되알 가부용 요자 안 담보 표현도 시기인스.
Pain-shingyin.
표현 내용 그랬어. benefit.
Oh, he's going to explain the benefits. The benefits will be explained.
If you understand the benefits, you will like it.
Right, that's what I missed before. I realized when he started again. And if you understand these benefits, that you will like it. So here's the benefits will be explained.
다 안에 benefit 간데 benefit 요아를 표현 간데 요아를 집에이나 되네. 존나 대진시바 샤자토발라 샤첼로스 대진시바 샤자토발라 샤첼로스 대진시바스 베지 샤자 제름버치가 요가 줄론래 산지 숭이고네 샤도 디바샤노지들래 데네 산지 숭하고네 샤다 모면 나요레스 안데 간데이나 안데 담보 샤자토발라 샤첼로스 대진시바스 베지 메만도아 안 제르마 정고들 대신시바스 쪼고도스 대신시바 다좀 양다바 주부 상지 배저와 샤저도발라 샤셀로 대신시바스 안에 제르마 저거데 가리나 상진골 대조바이나 팬도 여바지 지고여다 대신시바스야데 어디 제르마 저기 쪼레스.
So previously in this text, there was not the section in each one of the homages that says to the Tathagata, to the Tathagata. This was previously not inserted in this confession, and Lama Tsongkhapa engaged in this practice quite vigorously and actually made the addition of the two Tathagata into the text. Because of some benefit.
대신시바 샤자토발라 샤셀로스야되게 샤첼로 셰바들 표현 간데 요아레 레버 간데 가서 디바 간데 다 그래서 라바이나 대신시바 샤자토발라 샤셀로 셰 죄베 깨버티 디바 다 그래서 깨버티지 디바 다 그래서.
So just by it is said that by stating to the founder Bhagavan Tathagata Arhat, perfectly completed Buddha, glorious conqueror, Shakyamuni Buddha, I prostrate. It is stated that 10,000 eons of negative karma has been purified. So if we can just say out loud, say out loud to the founder, Bhagavan, Tathagata, Arhat, perfectly completed Buddha, glorious conqueror, Shakyamuni Buddha, I prostrate. If just by saying that, we can purify 10,000 eons, just by saying that, we can purify 10,000 eons of negative karma.
디바다스 디진시바 두진시바 로든 좀발라 샤젤로시 텐죄베 안 깨바 트지기 디바다 그레스.
So if one goes, pays homage to the second Buddha, to the Tathagata, thoroughly destroying with Vajra essence, this purifies 10,000 eons of negative karma as well.
어제 개바 트이 디바렌도 다 산제 송바 대신 저바렌 저 출라 샤절로 시베 안에 개바 니트기 디바다 트니 디바다는 거도
So if we say then to the Tathagata king, to the Tathagata radiant jewel I prostrate, we can purify 20,000 eons of negative karma.
다 산제 제바로 산제 제바 롱하기 제바 대신 제바 롱하기 제바라 샤절로 시베 안에 개바 똥기 디바다는 거도
So when we say to the Tathagata king, lord of the Nagas, this purifies Kalpadun, 1,000 eons of negative karma.
어제 다 산제 나바 안에 롱하기 바이드르바 바이드라 샤절로 시제베 바이데 개바 똥기 디바다는 거도
And when we say to the Tathagata army of heroes, I pay homage, 1,000 eons of negative karma will be purified.
다 대신 제바 베젤라 샤절로 시베 안에 개바 니 똥기 디바다는 거도
By saying to the Tathagata, the delighted hero, I pay homage, 2,000 eons of negative karma are purified.
다 대신 제바는 제 말라 샤절로 시베 제 메이 체죄베 개바 니 똥기 디바다는 거도
If we say to the Tathagata, jewel fire, I pay homage, then 2,000 eons are purified.
대신 제바는 제 다요라 샤절로 시제베 안에 개바 제 똥기 디바다는 거도
To the Tathagata jewel moonlight, I pay homage. If this has been stated, 8,000, the Gatsudue,
개바 똥자 제똥
Jedong, 8,000 eons of negative
Yeah.
karma.
다데 대신 제바 통화되라 샤절로 시 체죄베 안에 개바 찌기 디바다는 거도
So if one says to the Tathagata, meaningful to see, I pay homage, this purifies 1 eon of negative karma.
어제
The Ngatsu Delpa Kakare.
왜베
Kakare.
알레
Chitong.
알레
Chi Kakare. I was just saying what I said to Rinpoche is everyone who has this book, the commentary of the actual number of eons is different than what we're going over.
대신 제바는 제 다요라 샤절로 대신 제바는 제 다요라 샤절로 시베 대신 제바는 제 다요라 샤절로 시 체죄베 참에바 나이 디바다도 참에가 파세바 마세발라 수비 디바다도
So if we say to the Tathagata, jewel moonlight, this purifies Jedong.
참에가
The
파세바
five, this purifies the 5 heinous crimes. The heinous crimes of killing one's mother, killing one's father, killing an arahat, drawing blood from a Buddha, and dividing the Sangha.
다 존데데 대신 제바다 좀 드마 메베 벨라 샤절로 시 체죄베 안에 죄베
That's good.
됐다 녀왕아 이 디바다 버스 녀왕아 이 디바다
Tungwan do you?
아
Tungwan do you?
레전 다와라 샤절 대신 제바 드마 메베 벨라 드마 메베 베렌도 드마 메베 벨라 샤절로
Okay, this is getting harder because everything is different. Hold on 1 second. 강인선은
다 체험마 다 된데 나지 라자는 그런 데 인지 돌려로 그지 시대 그러다
Just 1 moment. Just give me. Here. Let me take a second here. Pajala, Rinchen
다 대신 제바를 전 다요라 샤절 대신 제바를 전 다요라 샤절로
Rinchen Dai Lashatsela.
대 그저 유여도 다 그런 통도 그때
Rinchen Dai Lashatsela.
대신 제바를 전 다와
Tungwan do you Lashatsela?
통화도 말 대신 제바를 전 다와도데 대신 제바를 전 다와라 샤절로
Then
전 다요 참에가 이디바다 그래서 참에가
Uh-huh.
파마세 발라서
Rinchen Dai. The
저
Lapsar.
그런도 라자로
랍사.
근도에
That's Kakare. Jedong.
알아
Kalpa Jedong.
개바 제동 데이터로 같이 좀
The Rinchen Dao the Kalpa Jedong.
전 다와
I think we're skipping tooth Buddhas. That's what I'm just trying to make sure, and I don't know why, but I think we are.
Yina nga pacha tro de na mishi.
Yeah, it's on Rinpoche. Gunga Mepachi Rinpoche.
Yeah.
I think
Chi-
there's
chi na
something
nga
missing in his
tro de.
book. That's why I have 3 books here all over the place going crazy, and I'm trying to find out. Rinpoche, Tongshak, Beabudu.
Ah, me tongsha phengo ma de deba de ja go. Tongsha de lo ngan de ya.
Yeah, Tsampa, the Ngama, Tupten children, Songchana, the
Ah.
Chipa. Both of us, we had 103 fever, and we couldn't, this teaching was so beginning to be so confusing, we couldn't figure out why, and now I know exactly why, because the text is missing names. So we're skipping to eons that were purification of the wrong names, and I kept saying there's 2 names missing. We got to the end, and we were at 33 Buddhas, and it was over, and we were like, what's going on? And there's stuff missing in here. And it's very strange because I've read multiple commentaries, and they seem to be concordant with Lama Zopa Rinpoche's, and it seems to be a little different. I wonder if the order of the eons of purification was because of the missing Buddhas is different.
What tang
Little food for thought.
Yeah. What the true
Di
da
so
ya
much,
te go.
Velabudu, ngatsude tongshag, tsawa da, and
Zawa phengo ma da de deba de da go de par wa. Juni chosong je, juju jenga ro, juju jenga je.
sanjing
jenga judu judun ro, judu judun re, judu judun je. Da tene sanji no jang no le song bas.
Yeah, Tsampa.
Chu de go.
Don't want to do you la, tang rinchin dawa la, yomare.
Ngaro deba da na ma do nga go se mare.
Ah.
Yeah. Nga the truth you know. Tangan go no login das ro.
I'm going to go to the beginning. I'm
Yeah.
going to teach from the beginning. Shachatupa.
Ta dijin she ba shaja to bala sha zo lo she be ke ba thi de ba she da.
So if one recites homage to the Tathagata Guru Shakyamuni Buddha, this purifies 10,000 eons.
Dijin she ba dujin ye be ra dun jo bala sha zo lo she be ke ba thi de ba.
If one says to the Tathagata, thoroughly destroying with Vajra essence, I pay homage, this purifies Kalpa Chichi, 10,000 eons of negative karma.
Dijin she ba ren chen da yo la sha zo lo she be ke ba nyin thi de ba ta gan dus.
If one says to the Tathagata,
Ren she yo tro. Ren she yo tro.
Rinchen Utru, radiant jewel, I pay homage, this purifies Gatsue,
Ni chi.
to 20,000 eons of negative karma.
Dijin she ba long wa ki je bo la sha zo lo she be ke ba tong ji de ba ta gan dus.
Nagagi Jun. If one says to the Tathagata, King, Lord of the Nagas, I pay homage, this purifies Chitung, 1,000 eons of negative karma.
Dijin she ba yu de la sha zo lo she be ke ba tong ji de ya.
If
Ke ba tong
one
ki de ba ta gan dus.
says, if one says to the Tathagata army of heroes, I pay homage, this purifies 1,000 eons.
Dijin she ba pe je la sha zo lo she chen jue be ke ba nyin dong ki de ba ta gan dus.
If one states to the Tathagata, delighted hero, I pay homage, this purifies 2,000 eons.
Dijin she ba ren chen ma la sha zo lo she chen jue be ke ba nyin dong ki de ba ta gan dus.
If one says to the Tathagata, jewel fire, I pay homage, this Nidong purifies 2,000 eons of negative karma.
Dijin she ba ren chen da yo la sha zo lo she chen jue be ke ba je dong ki de ba ta gan dus.
Kalpa
It
Jita.
does
If
it.
one recites to the Tathagata, jewel of moonlight, I pay homage, this purifies 8,000 karmas, 8,000 eons of negative karma.
E da na yan yin sa ma da. Ke ba je dong
Jetong.
Je dong.
Kalpa
8,000.
Jetong, 8,000 eons.
Yeah. Ala ya what did it?
8,000 kalpas.
Dijin she ba thong de yo la sha zo lo she chen jue be ke ba ji ki de ba ta gan dus.
Did something ayomarbe? Okay.
Okay.
Okay. To the Tathagata, meaningful to see, I pay homage. This, by stating this, purifies kalpa chi,
Keba chiri, keba
one
chiri.
eon.
Ta tijin sheba rinchen dayo, tijin sheba as, tijin sheba chuchi junyi ro.
Did datarirumche, rinchin daola.
Tijin sheba rinchen dayo la shazo lo roa, tijin sheba rinchen dayo la shazo lo shebe, tijin sheba rinchen dayo la shazo lo shebe, derin dere. Rinchen dayo la shazo lo shebe, tsame ba nga iti ba tagandos.
Chipa. So to the Tathagata jewel moon I pay homage, purifies the negative karmas of immediate retribution, or the 5 heinous crimes.
Tijin sheba trama mebi pe la shazo lo shebe, tsen jebe, nye iti ba nga di ba tagandos.
The
Nye di ba nga. Tsame ba nga, nye di ba ngas. Nye di ba ngas danga yore. Palan sheba, jeba ba me dans, palan seba, kewa kil, chudun kil, wami kil, tachi di ba nga yore nga. Nye di ba nga. Nye di ba nga, wadu kyo kilami nenju nolo yore. Palan sheba, jeba ba me dans, wadu nolo.
So to the Tathagata stainless one purifies negative karmas that are similar to immediate retribution. And for example, killing a cow, there are
Palan,
five negativities.
kewa kil, chudun kil,
Cow killing, children killing, woman killing.
Palan sheba, jeba ba me dans. Palan sheba, jeba, majen da seba.
Killing others.
Jeba ba me dans. Ane jini tenga mdo wadu
There's one or two we don't have. So
Duku lami nenju diyoruz. Duku lami nenju.
Dukur Lami Nejor. It's in
Kala
the
Chakra
Kala Chakra
Yoga.
Highest Yoga Tantra.
What?
It can be found in the Kala
Lami
Chakra
nenju,
Highest Yoga.
lami nenju. Ngama chunyo ndo wadu nolu yore. Guru yoga, guru yoga.
Dukor.
Kala chaka guru yoga. Wadu nolu yore.
Okay.
Palan
Guru
sheba
yoga.
jeba pemendas. Nye diba
Nejor.
nga. Tsame ngal diba te chunga. Palan seya, pugu seya, maseya, wami seya, wadu nga yore.
So these 5 are just a little less than those of the 5 heinous crimes, such as killing a cow, killing a woman, killing a child, killing another, and the ones we don't have from the Kala Chakra Yoga.
Oji. Taten tishin sheba Beijing la shaselo she chen jebe ane shedang ki kun na bi deba tagandus kontro kun na sa sha bi deba nga tagres.
So to the Tathagata bestowed with courage I pay homage. This purifies negative karmas accumulated from generating anger or having anger.
Ta tishin sheba chamba la shaselo she chen jebe de cha ji kun na bi deba nga tagandus de cha kun na bi de cha ge sheba la tene sa sha bi ni deba nga tagres.
The next is to the Tathagata pure one I pay homage. This purifies negative karmas accumulated from attachment, because it's from attachment that we engage in various other misdeeds.
Ta tishin sheba chambe shin la shaselo she chen jebe keba chiji deba tagandus.
If
10,000.
by saying to the Tathagata bestowed with purity, this purifies 10,000 eons of negative karma.
Tishin sheba chola la shaselo shi ten jebe chole keba ton chigi deba tagandus.
If one states to the Tathagata water god I pay homage, this purifies 1,000 eons of negative karma.
Oje tishin sheba chu la shaselo shi ten jebe ane keba nga ton deba tagandus.
If one states to the Tathagata, deity of the water god I pay homage, this purifies 5,000 eons of negativity.
Ta tishin sheba pezan la shaselo shi ten jebe pezan ki ne keba nga ton deba tagandus.
If one states to the Tathagata, glorious goodness I pay homage, this purifies 5,000 eons of negative karma.
Tishin sheba zenden pe la shaselo shi ten jebe zenden pe ji keba dunji deba tagandus.
Kalpa dun, chitun.
Keba dun. Samen iyan.
7.
Samen
Okay.
tazari.
To the Tathagata, glorious sandalwood I pay homage, purifies 7 eons of negative karma.
What dereja. Tishin sheba ziji tayi la shaselo shi chen jebe ziji tayi je keba dunji deba tagandus chiba reja.
It's the same as the Tathagata, when it states Tathagata infinite splendor I pay homage, this also purifies 7,000 eons of negative karma.
Ta tishin sheba yope la shaselo sheba yope chen jebe yope je penyun penyon tse me ba song penyon tse me ba penyon shin du mo mo yo ba song yo des.
To the Tathagata glorious light, I pay homage, purifies 7,000. The
Tse me ba.
Semepa, the measurable benefits. Yine chanka
Chanka
yomar.
yomar, mo
Okay,
shi
so
des.
there is no number in this particular one. It just says this has immeasurable benefits.
The Jinsheba Nyanga maybe Bella Shazalo, she ten Juve, Nyanga maybe Beji, the Munguna Labi Dibatagaris, the Mungu Jusheba then the Sasha Dibak Natagaris.
So to the Tathagata sourless glory, I pay homage. Purifies negativity that is collected through ignorance or through delusion, and what delusion creates.
That the Jinsheba Simiji Pola Shazalo, she Simiji Be, Pachaji Queen, Lambi Dibatas, Pachaki Jusheba Latene, and then Yomobi Pacha, then Zig Pachaki Jusheba Latene, Sasha Be, Dibatu Gatanus inside.
So to the Tathagata, son of non-craving, purifies the negative imprints of the karma. Because we have the negative imprints, the pacha, the denzing pacha. Because we have the grasping at true imprints of the grasping at true establishment and the afflictions and so forth. So these imprints that are left are purified through stating the Tathagata, son of non-craving, I pay homage. It's independent. Those that are independence upon the obstructions to those negativities created independence upon the obstructions to omniscience.
That the Jinsheba Matubella Shazalo, she Matubeji Chenrezig, and Luigi Dibatas, Luigi Gunasasha Dibatagris.
Changyomare.
Luigi Gunasab Diba.
If one states to the Tathagata glorious flower, I pay homage, this purifies negative karmas or activities created by the body.
Oji Luigi Gunasab Dibata. The Jinsheba Sambi Vela Sambi. She was Sambi was in nobody, Moba Chambala Shazalo, she Chenrezig, Sambi was Ziji, Nagugan Sabidiba, Nagugan Dibasan.
If one states to the Tathagata, pure light rays, clearly knowing by play, this purifies negativities created by the speech.
What the harsh
words and so forth.
Yeah.
We'll need to work on this more.
Jinsheba Sambi was in nobody, Moba Chambala Shazo. Jinsheba Pemi was in nobody, Moba Chambala Shazolo, Pemi was Ziji, Yiji Dibatasa, Yiji Gunasashabe, Dosha Condola Sopa, what to Dibatan was it?
To the Tathagata, lotus, light, rays, clearly knowing by play, purifies negativities accumulated by the mind, so attachments and aversions and so forth that are accumulated by the mind. So negativities accumulated by the mind are purified by this.
That the Jinsheba Nobela Shazalo, she Chenrezig, Genujukula Babi Dibatas, the Jinsheba Nobeji and the Genujukula Babi Diba. Good deed to the Jean, good Diba, Marba.
Gumugua.
Is Marba, the Tabaki Jala, Tabaki Jala. What so and the
So the next Tathagata, glorious wealth, I pay homage, purifies negative karmas relative to the Sangha, and for those who might utilize objects of the Sangha, or householders who utilize objects of the Sangha inappropriately. So this purifies negative imprints of those activities.
And Kanzalo go to be debatas, Tempi Peji, Kanzalo go to be Majendal Dojalo de Marbe, Koyayare Mamares, and then Dojalo de Kobatobas, Kobatova.
Yanjusuranang, Chik.
Kanzalo Kobato be debatas. The Jinsheba Tempi Bella Shazalo, she Chenrezig, Tempi Chenrezig, Pen Cariorsna, Kanzalo Kobato be debataris. Jebushidak Dujar, could Dujari, Teabumare, Mabuja, Nagdiba Musa de Euro. What did
Nagdiba? See two
Kobaton. Kobatos and the Marve. Kole, you Maris.
Oh, okay.
Jim and June dos, what the Kobatos, Kobatos. What the Lord
The To the Tathagata, glorious mindfulness, I pay homage, purifies negativity of criticizing others and saying that one has qualities that one does not possess, and they have negative qualities that they do not possess. So it's, what's the terminal? There's a term though for that he used. Okay, I don't know. Sorry.
But do
saying the worst poison is to say the Buddha has bad qualities.
What the swing is it?
Criticizing the Buddha.
Then Jibata, Tembi Peji, Kanzalo Kobata, Dibata, Tishiba Tishiba Dajumayanta Bazu Sanji, Temipela, Tishiba,
Senpei Shinto Yonga.
Senpei Shinto Yonga, Rapeji Jabola, Shazoloshi, Tenjebe, Chadu Gunam Dibatan, Chadu.
So to the Tathagata, glorious name, widely renowned, I pay homage, purifies negativities accumulated through jealousy.
What Chadu Gunam Dibatan, Tishiba, Ombutu Jasenji Jabola, Shazolo, she, Tenjebe, and Najek Gunam Dibatan, Najek Gunam Dibakango, jealousy.
To the Tathagata, king holding the victory banner of foremost power, I pay homage, purifies negative karmas accumulated with namjel, pride.
Prado, what it? Prag Gunam Dibatan, Grisda. Tishiba Dajumayanta Bazusan, she Nabanebi,
Wampotogi, Jelsenji,
Ombutu Jasen Javarba. Najaji Diba, Ombu what it? Tishiba Ombutu Jasenji Jabola, Shazelo, she be Najaki Dibarote, Prai. Najaji Dibata. Tishiba Shinto Nabanebi Bella, Shazelo, she Tenjube, Nebi Tami Sebashis, Nebe Tami. Never seen a hopper marble.
Situ Dandrabudu, the
Ne
ancient
Karsugre.
slant.
Deepa Tamutam Chuchu,
Deepa Tramo, very subtle misdeeds.
yeah.
Okay, so to the Tathagata,
Nebe
glorious
Trami,
one,
ji.
totally subduing, this purifies negativities which are very subtle, the very subtle misdeeds.
Tamusaber, yes. Tishiba Uli Shinto Naba Jawala, Shazelo, she Tenjube, and then Numobi Riseba. Ah.
The Yanjar Suranang, Shinto Nampa Numpe.
Tishiba Shinto Naba Nebi Bella, Shazelo, she Tenjube, Tamiri, Alla Tamajero, Tama. Tamasana, and then Kuni Chamadona, Dasha Churun Joboroa, and Majigi, Chuno Matonsal, Dasha Lon Jebe of Maridas. Children learn Tasha Abmudus Lana. Change trauma, Tamashi is what the man what the Tamas.
So we're going back to the Tathagata, glorious one subduing. The subtle misdeeds. Shinto Nampa. We previously said to the Tathagata, glorious one, totally subduing. We were speaking of the subtle misdeeds. And Rinpoche said it's that is.
Tagisaro said, "Nan Nandua, Tama said, so Dun Tama Titu said, Dun Tama said."
So here, this is referring to divisive speech. In here, the purification of divisive speech. Here they use the word slander. And Rinpoche said, if, for instance, somebody went to Stasha and said, Stasha, Jeff is no good, and I went to Stasha and said something. It's basically dividing people who are connected. So creating division through slander is the purified negativity of Shinto Nampar Numpe Pels quality.
That the Jinsha Uli Shinto Naba Jawala, Shazelo, she Tenjubi, Numubi Sebrashisa. Nyomobin dosha control of Sukalo, Kalekale Senegers, Mabachan,
Nyomobi-rik. So, to the Tathagata, utterly victorious in battle, I pay homage, purifies anything which is in the lineage or of the lineage of affliction.
That Jordan the Tishiba Dajumayanta Zubi Soja, Nabanebi, she be Pella Shazelo, she be Beji, Jen
Nampar Numpe Shepe.
Nabanebi, she be Pella Shazelo, she Tenjube, Jen Shedu Jubi Dibatas, Jen Shedu Dibasas, and Jenda Marbe, Chim Musus, Sinjin Sus, and the called Dujaji, or the Lona, Jen Shed should be Tibetan.
To the glorious transcendence through subduing, I pay homage. To the Tathagata, glorious transcendence through subduing, I pay homage. Purifies negativity created by causing others to create bad karma. So by ordering one to kill someone or kill an animal or to engage in some sort of negative activity. So this purifies that.
That's also missing a diva yours. So
if we kill ourselves something, then this creates the killing. But if we order someone to kill, it creates the same thing, the same level of karma. But we only experience our own misdeeds, and others experience their misdeeds.
What the Jesuit Diva is, what the Tibetan was.
To the Tathagata, glorious manifestations illuminating all I pay homage, purifies negativity from rejoice in the negativities that others and ourselves have created. So it's actually rejoicing in negative actions that we or others have done. So here we have a war going on, and if we rejoice in that war and rejoice in the war going on, we will collect that misdeed. So this is the misdeed created by rejoicing in misdeeds, and how to purify it. Nampa numpe. To the Tathagata, all subduing jewel lotus, I pay homage, purifies the negative karma of avoiding the Dharma or abandoning the Dharma.
And the Chuji Pearl Mape Gon Pearl Chubung Lemo Masabaris. Dunyalan chickens to get Ha killing womaris, Ha chickens to cotton wars, Ha Nyalan chickens to Dunyalan chickamaris, Kosudu cotton wars, Chubung ladies, Diva wars.
So there was a great problem of abandoning the Dharma going on in Tibet when Lord Atisha arrived. And when Lord Atisha arrived there were those who were pronouncing that only to practice the Sutra teachings, and then there were those who were only saying to practice the Tantric teachings, and they were finding no concordance between the two, and that the two were mutually exclusive. So here, this sort of notion is the negativity of abandoning the Dharma.
What the Chubung leg not so Pachatu Lord and Sakon Jao than Jebaina, Chubung Les Pachatu Combo Jao than Jena, Chubung Les Agris, Pachakon Jala than Jan, Chubung Les Agris, Shaju.
So if we were to throw a book on the ground, or if we were to put something on top of a book, then we would be creating also of a Dharma text. When I'm saying book, of a Dharma text, then we would be creating the negativity of abandoning the Dharma.
And the Lada de Cool Jan de and the
when children are small, sometimes when we were small, we would say our prayers and we would put our texts under our butt and sit on them. And they
what the also but I can dance if did you
get that by chance?
Don't
put things on top of it. Books should be higher than other things. There's so many different kinds of negativity of abandoning the Dharma.
And Susu Lamatan Tansinya with Tibetan Gris.
The Yanjusuralam Che.
Dijin sheba ronga ki jabula sha zelo shi ronga ki jabi chen jobe ne lama dang
Dejin shit the kage.
Dijin sheba
I
ronga ki
lost
jabi
my place. I'm sorry, everybody.
Chupon ki diba seba diba da Dijin sheba ronga ki jabi marbende ronga ki jabula sha zelos due
That's cool. I just lost my place. This is my fault. Okay, we did that. Went through that. Went through that. I don't think that's. Aren't we at Dajon Boyan Dapar?
Dijin sheba da joma yanta ba
Yo marbe.
ronga ki jabula sha zelo ronga ki jabo Di ta terendo Dijin sheba kunen hanga be bela sha zelo Dijin sheba kunen hanga bela sha zelos Chupon ki diba da
That's good, Rimchin. Ngatsu Becha, yo Mari, ngayon sampang. Ngatsu Becha, Dejin Sheba Dajon Boyan Dapar, Zobi Sanjay Rinpoche Dang. The Tama. Sanjay the Sen Tama. Ngatsu Becha. Gangasin or Rinchin Peme, Nampan Numpala Tsar. Then Dejin Sheba Dajon Boyan Dapar, Zobi Sanjay. Rinpoche Dang Mala.
Ta tenen dana de debadal dua madaba hinna me hakumare Dijin sheba kunen hanga be bela sha zelo she jobe jesu irangi debadas rowa Dijin sheba re shepa ma pema naba ne be bela sha zelo she peme chupung debadas
Peme.
Dijin sheba
Kabayore.
peme ze naba re ngaba chambala sha zelo modwe pema palawa Dijin sheba peme ze naba re ngaba chambala sha zelo
Rinchin Peme Nampa Numpala. Beme Wurza. I have this memorized. There's something funny going on here. Hold on. I gotta get.
Tan de najin lo shu ta le
Yene, the names. You gotta have the names. Does somebody have a different? Can I see that? That'll help.
Same as yours.
Is it?
Yeah.
All right.
It's just different.
What was the last one in English we said?
Dijin sheba kunen hanga be bela sha zelo anna ya Dijin sheba kunen hanga be bela sha zelo shebi jesu irangi debadas
All subduing. So yeah. So that's the last is the Dajon Bayan Dabar.
Dijin sheba peme ze naba
Beme Wurzer is before.
Dijin sheba rin chen peme naba ne bala
have this map.
Dijin sheba rin chen peme naba ne bala sha Dijin sheba rin chen peme naba ne bala sha due De tonshal de yoro tonshal
There, it is missing, I think, from this, because I have it memorized in Tibetan, and the Peme words are not I can't find in here.
Beil due Dijin sheba kun
Peme words are. It's the.
Dijin sheba
Where do you have that?
Dijin sheba kunen hanga be bela sha
Yeah, he has Peme words
Dijin
It's in our root text he used when I use it to memorize. I gotta find it.
bela sha zelo Dijin sheba kunen hanga be bela sha zelo
What am I doing?
Di shu ko kare
Looking for.
Later
This is what happens when.
what is the Dijin sheba rin chen peme naba ne dua de de Dijin sheba rin chen peme naba ne bela sha zelo sheba de dene rin chen peme naba ne bela sha zelo shebe chupong ki debadas
We did that. The next one.
Ta dai shi udel Dijin sheba ronga jaba marbe
Peme Wurzer. It's in Peme Wurzer, NGK. Yo, that's cool. I have the root text here that I memorized. Dejin Shepa.
Dijin sheba rin chen peme naba ne bela sha zelo Dijin sheba rin chen peme naba ne bela sha zelo shebe chupong ki debadas rowa Ta Dijin sheba ronga ki jabula sha zelo shebe lama ta rangi tansi nyabi deba seba shes
Okay, I'm back now. I don't know. I can't figure it out right this moment. I'm sorry.
Andu
Let me see your text.
Dijin sheba rin chen peme naba ne bela sha zelo chupong ki debadas Dijin sheba ronga ki jabula sha zelo lama ta tansi nyabi debadas de
So this next one is relative to purification of negativities created around the guru and the lama. What does it say? Say that again? The king, and that's what it says in this one.
Criticizing Lama Tang, Dancing Yaba, Lama Matuba Chan, Dancing Yabi Tibetan.
Lamas over Rinpoche Delba de Dajong Bayanda Barzo Besenji Rinpoche Dang Pamela Raptu Jupe Zhawang Joko.
That did the Pashan Madua, the Madua, they should have done with it. The Pashan Dua, Tonsha Pashan Dua, Rangi Jabola Shazor Pasal Euro. They rank Lama the Tansinia with Tibetan, in the Madue.
The Dajong Bayanda Barki Yunten.
They will later. Then Rangi Jabos had Del Madua. What they Rangi Jabola Shazor,
the King of Independence.
Lama Matubi Tibetan.
I'm going to start making stuff up. The King of Independence. To the Tathagata, King of Independence, I pay homage. Rawang Jelpo.
Rawagi Jabo, Resanang Martin said the Marbe.
Rawagi
Jabo.
The Jiwang.
Yeah.
The King of the Mountains, the Tathagata, King of Wang, power, King of the powerful mountain. To the Tathagata, King of the powerful mountain, I pay homage, and this purifies negativity relative to the Guru. Anything that we've created relative around our Lama.
Teacher, student, this Matthew
any kind of negative interaction that takes place between the teacher and student. Oh, I see. Okay.
What the Kaba Mada in the
let me, translators know. I think that sometimes that last name, those are the 7 medicine Buddhas encompassed. I think sometimes you can just use one name, and I think that's the one that we're missing. I think that the 35th Buddha is in my root text, the one that Rinpoche is saying, and that last one that we usually see is a condensed, I think, of the medicine Buddhas.
Rinpoche is right. It's here in the last entry here. After thoroughly subduing them, there's this long name of perfectly completed Lord of the Mountains here, but there's all this other stuff that comes before us in translation.
Right.
What this one just one?
He was saying just Riwan Kigelpo, Lord of the Mountains. If you look in the last line, it's here. Perfectly completed Buddha, King of the Lord of the firmly seated, Jewel and Lotus, Lord of Mountains, firmly seated on the Jewel and Lotus. But Rinpoche wasn't saying firmly seated on the Jewel and Lotus. He was just saying.
So then, okay. So I'm a little confused right now. But the Tathagata Arhat, perfectly completed Buddha, King of the Lord of Mountains, firmly seated on the Jewel and Lotus, I prostrate, is the last Buddha. So that is the 35th. The King of the Lord of Mountains is the 35th Buddha.
So beginning
with, to the founder Bhagavan Tathagata Arhat, perfectly completed Buddha, glorious conqueror, Shakyamuni, I prostrate, and ending with the King of the Lord of Mountains. There are 35 Buddhas, and we see the great benefit of saying these names. It's really not a very big fault. It was more a confusion than anything else. So we should have the proper mind of faith. I lost it. Did you get it, Ed?
던지 제바 있나 데바 안에 데바 뭐 다는 거
So when we speak of homage and through the three ways, through the body making actual physical prostrations, through the speech of actually verbal homages, and through the mind of thinking of the excellent qualities of these things, one can purify. One will be greatly benefited.
어제 드는 아주 배저 샤자 토발라 샤셀로스 체지느나 깨버트르 디바다노 렐합 말.
So when we pay homage to the glorious conqueror Shakyamuni Buddha, we can purify 10,000 eons of negative karma right there.
드는 쳇당 송쳇당 마무기 디바다노 was 배변 저브리스.
And then there are those with 20,000 sumtri.
드는 마무 종소.
There's so many, we've gone over 20,000, etc. of benefits. If we do the confession of downfalls, it is very beneficial.
안데 샹주 생바도 제다고 돼 저브리스. 안데 고주 샹주 생비 동바 게누 거르스. 게두 안데 소야데 동샤는 수고르스.
Bodhisattvas have many excellent qualities and have bodhisattva vows, and if they break or create an infraction in their bodhisattva vows, then they engage in the purification through the confession of bodhisattva downfalls.
나무 샹주 생비 동화샤바스. 샹주 생바스 동화샤바스. 네, 상지 송아 생죄비고네. 안데 샹주 생비 동화샤 도고 여바 이나. 안데 상지 송아 생죄비 안데 가수 령아이소 디바도 샤 도고레스.
So we can purify our negativities created through our body, speech, and mind through recitation of these 35 names. And we see in the beginning where it says homage to the confession of bodhisattvas' downfalls. In the beginning section, it says homage to the confession of bodhisattvas' downfalls, and we can it has the ability to purify negativities of our body, speech, and mind.
다때네 존는데 디신셔바다 좀 양다부조 선지 빼저 샤자 도발라 샤절로시 안네 상로 주중 쳐봐 인그레스 다 상로데 안네 저와시망강에 손을 제기이나 안네 갈동에 몸 용사래 안네 손을 동에 타나냐베 상로 여비 토네 존는데 디신셔바다 좀 양다부조 선지 빼저 샤자 도발라 샤절로시 샤세바이나 제부 중고도 투문 줄로 샤서 말베.
So there are various levels of this actual first statement. To the founder, Bhagavan, Tathagata, Arhat, perfectly completed Buddha, glorious conqueror, Shakyamuni Buddha, I prostrate. There are small levels of benefit of that and great levels. If one wishes to not be born into the lower realms of hells, hungry ghosts, and animals, and prostrates for that reason, then this becomes a homage for beings of small capacity.
나 동엘 가보면 로아리도 동엘 가보면 동에도 녀모바 봉비 체도 안에 타바투비 체도 샤세바이나 제보 링아 투무이라린도 자그레스 말베.
So if one then wishes to be free from all 6 realms of cyclic existence, to be free from the suffering of cyclic existence altogether, and to be liberated from it, then one pays homage. When one pays homage with that motivation, it becomes teaching shared in common with beings of medium capacity.
땅에 생전 타지도 선지 고본토기 디제도 샤제바이나 지부지비준도 양 말베.
So if one pays homage in order to free all sentient beings from suffering, then this becomes a homage of the great capacity.
What is 상로게 상로 쳐와들 편 쳐와 용제래 린 용거래 종을
So it's the level of thinking that matters. Smaller thinking creates smaller things, medium, and great.
데네 배저와 샤자 도발 샤서 칸라 샤사사 유 샤자 도바 샤체케 소소 샤체와 아니 용원 조선도 그걸로 땡데레스 땡데 인자 대바 마루바 돈
So if we want to engage in meditation on emptiness while we're doing this, we can look at action, agent, and object. The object of our actual homage is Shakyamuni. The action is the prostration, and the agent is ourselves. So we can look at the dependent origination of this and meditate upon emptiness while we're doing so. And this is virtues of prostration, and we should dedicate it.
Dedication. Dedication. And
if we have a dedication, then the virtue becomes the greatest level.
just injitul then tilo the yaburis bejo shaja to sonji songa corajon doing
And we can
yabu.
look in this English and we can see the 35 names and we can go through them. Huh? What'd you say?
Corasana.
I can't.
Turn. Bejo shaja to bola shaza.
Again and again. To pray, you can go over it again and again.
Wrong jabola shaza. Bejo shaja to corajon.
Korajap. We do it again and again.
Turn. The corajo was not.
Korajap. Korajap means circle. But we don't say we circle a text in English. We say we go over it again and again. We read it again and again. We're circling, when we're saying Om Mani Padme Hum, they call that circling a rosary. One time is beneficial. 2 times is more beneficial, and more and more.
Then the whole what the
其实现在定什么？他的12档，
okay.
12场，
What then
17啊。
and then also to what land one to what land is in the mara.
Then a true what
Okay.
So we'll do the dedications and then we'll have question and answer
I need
session.
to the sugar because I need the no.
I know. He was saying when we were in Tibetan Children's Abbey, this is what happened. I think the text was out of order and maybe something, I don't know. And when you're sitting there and you have to go, it's like you don't have time to figure it out. It's hard. And then everything becomes very confusing. All right. So we'll begin with the outer monologue offering. Za ji mu ni ju ji me bon ram ri ra lin ji ni ne yen ma ni za nie jin du mi ne wa ni rong un na jin la nyu ba yo da gi jin ye za ben ge wa di ten dan ro wa kun la gam ben da je ba je zun ro zan ra ba yi den be nim bo rin du sen ye jo idam guru ratna mandala gam niratayami Jamel Bawu Nida Jin Padan Gondu Sambo Dian De Jin Te De Da Bunji Jesu Da Luchi Gewa De Da Tanche Ratu Ngo Du Zum Je Be Yawa Tam Che Ji Ngo Wa Gan La Chotu Nga Pa De Da jen ge we tse wa kun jan sampo chu chi ra tu ngo wa ni Ri ra we ho we shin yam de pen dan de wa ma lu yong we ne Chenrezig on Nenzin Yan Zoi Jamais Zidin Badu Den Yoni Lo Zun Zambo Shun Yen Nangala Yun rin jamban bing ye shin lun dan do bidin ban zin chen ba yen sur wan da rin jin jan den jo